Here at Strategic Spaces, our goal is to provide you interior solutions within the six-sided box called your space. We developed the Spacemaker process that helps you bring your project from concept to completion.
What we would do is get to know what your needs are to help create a space that will be within their budget and your aesthetic.
Everything is customizable to what the client is looking for.
Using some of our software, we can virtually render a space for you.
The fourth step of our process is to implement these solutions into your space.
We like going in and molding what we do around what they need.
They have a good sense of the way that the marketplace is changing almost before everybody else does.
It allows us to really customize the fit, feel, and functionality as your company goes into the next phase of its development.
Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to MassBio's monthly town hall. I'm Sharon Claude, Vice President of Discovery Biotherapeutics at BMS BristolMyers Squibb's Kendall Square site, and I'm joined here today by Pete Hebert, who's Executive Director of MassEcon. Our topic today is opportunities for sustainable expansion of the life sciences in Massachusetts. So for years, Massachusetts has been held the title as the best place in the world for the life sciences. But challenges on the horizon and competition from other states and abroad are threatening our leadership. So some of these challenges include keeping up with workforce demand, given the growth in our industry, an aging transportation system, and availability of affordable lab space in Cambridge and Boston. However, there are numerous opportunities available for us to achieve balanced growth over the next decade. So we'll use our time today to discuss these opportunities and discuss how we can continue to promote the growth of the Massachusetts life sciences cluster and reinforce the long-term sustainability and resilience of our ecosystem. So Pete, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about MassEcon?
Great, thank you, Sharon. Pete Hebert, Executive Director of MassEcon. MassEcon is a statewide nonprofit economic development organization. So we're actually not part of state government, but we are a full partner with the Commonwealth as it looks to grow economic opportunity here. We do a number of different things as an organization. We market Massachusetts beyond its borders, and our focus in our marketing is particularly corporate site selectors, which is a industry folks that are involved in working on behalf of companies that are looking for new locations for facilities. So we especially market to those corporate site selectors. It's a more limited target for us, but it's a very good target because they work with so many different companies around the world. We provide site location services for the Commonwealth. So should an organization be looking to grow in Massachusetts, relocate to Massachusetts, we provide an inventory of available spaces that exist here. We do a lot of research in support of a lot of our partners, both the state and municipal and regional partners, on economic development issues. Everything, labor market information. We do comparative tax evaluation, Massachusetts versus other locations. All of those sort of variables that enter into the decision of a company to locate someplace, we provide that kind of research. So that's a little bit about MassEcon.
Great, thanks for that. So I'll start it off with the first question. Why Massachusetts and why now? So why are life sciences companies making a commitment to launch, grow, and expand here?
So it is an incredible period of time for the life sciences in general, and certainly in Massachusetts. And I think it's because of the nature of the life sciences and where life sciences is especially growing. That's, in the biologics space, especially, and Massachusetts historically didn't have years ago, decades ago, we didn't have a large pharmaceutical cluster here. But when biotechnology became an industry and gained traction, this was the place that it happened. One of the few places in the world back in the late 70s, early 80s. And so as the biotech industry grew, it grew here, and it grew here farther and faster than any place else in the world. And so that growth continues in the biologic space and in in a lot of new technologies that are out there, gene therapy, cell therapy, and so forth. Those opportunities are looking to Massachusetts, and we're seeing a lot of growth in that area. So we've long been a center for research and development in biotechnology, biopharma, and now we're seeing certainly that happen in biomanufacturing as well in incredible fashion.
Yeah, it's been both the manufacturing and the research elements have been key for Bristol-Myers as we've considered our growth in the state as well. We're expanding our footprint in research as we're building a new site in Cambridge Crossing, where we're gonna that'll open in a couple of years. That'll co-locate our two sites in Alewife and Kendall into that new building. And we're also, as you know, we have a large site in Devens that's manufacturing that we just announced. We're going to expand that and grow significantly to include cell therapy in the next couple of years. So certainly those features we find very attractive as well. How can we? So as we build and grow here, it's important to have the talent to staff these sites. So how can we best train the next generation of science and ensure we have a robust pipeline that are ready to meet the needs of the growing companies?
Yeah, there is a robust pipeline. And I guess it should be noted that in the life sciences and biopharmaceutical industry, really in every cluster globally, there is a strain on talent. Literally the ability to attract and grow talent in any cluster. And so Massachusetts is not immune to that. But we're doing very well in terms of a number of higher education institutions that are focused on talent development, and we have this incredible number of research universities, research hospitals, and so there's talent that moves to the industry from those places. And then there's talent that's developed here organically. And I think over the past 10 years, through many organizations, the Mass Life Science Center, the MassBio Ed Foundation, and others have really invested a lot of resources into identifying where the gaps are, perhaps, or emerging gaps in talent development, and how to really focus on filling those gaps. And incredible strides have been made. And so we tend not to worry so much at the master's, even PhD level, because there's this area is so attractive in terms of the industry and being at the cutting edge of the science, and recruiting those people has not without strain, but we do very well. And a lot of those folks come out of the universities here in Massachusetts and stay. But also on the other end of the spectrum, in terms of supporting different manufacturing type of functions, our community colleges and colleges like WPI, Northeastern, UMass Lowell have entire programs that are focused specifically on the biomanufacturing workforce. And so the number of conferrals at the associate's level and the bachelor's level that's around biomanufacturing have over the past 10 years increased dramatically. So there's a really good system, and there are different pathways. We're seeing more programs even at the high school level than in years past, and apprenticeship programs. So there is a lot out here in Massachusetts, and for any company that is interested in exploring more, two good places to start: the Mass Life Science Center. Ask them what they're involved in and who they're working with on talent development, and the Mass Bio Ed Foundation. Two great resources that really can connect you to these pipelines that are growing.
I think another sort of reaching back into the even younger folks, I think another exciting element to locally, I think, is the attention, focused on engaging very young kids in science, and especially girls, the Science Club for Girls, Project On-Ramp, and the Biomedical Careers Program, which is really, those all programs focused on getting very young people focused, exposing them to the life sciences and getting them interested very early in the careers that they have at their doorstep here. So I agree, it's a really rich environment, but we need to keep feeding it.
I think as much innovation as we see in the industry itself and so many different areas, we see it in workforce development as well in Massachusetts. So there are a lot of really exciting things happening.
Yeah. Does Massachusetts have what it takes to remain competitive against other states and in the global marketplace?
Absolutely. So Massachusetts is one of the very few states. In fact, really no other state rivals what we have in the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center. So this is an entire state organization that's focused on incentivizing the life sciences to grow even more in Massachusetts. So they have an array of different programs from workforce right through tax incentives, through early stage funding for startups and so forth. Really an incredible array of programs. And so Massachusetts, and we've had the Life Science Center and the Massachusetts Life Sciences Initiative, which is a $1.5 billion over its history program. We've had that now since 2008 in operation, 2009. And the investments that the Life Science Center has made are really astounding, and it continues to make to this day. So from early stage opportunities to global pharmaceutical companies that are also being incentivized to expand here in Massachusetts. So there's really nothing comparable in other states to the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center. So that's a great asset to have. Then you have this incredible organization called MassBio, which is, you can't say it's just in the forefront. It is always at the cutting edge in terms of where an industry association should be, and setting incredible new pathways to support its members and to support the growth of this industry. So no place do you have organizations like MassBio and the Mass Life Science Center working in support of this industry as you have in Massachusetts. So we have all of these, we have these two incredible assets, and then we have really very sophisticated communities around the state and state government itself, which is very supportive. And we have bio-ready rated communities where industry vetted standards in terms of bio-ready communities that are positioned to host these types of facilities. We talked about workforce, and so just one thing of note, which I think is fascinating, and I actually only came upon this statistic recently. So in Massachusetts, we have 36 million square feet of commercial lab and biopharma manufacturing space. 36 million square feet. In the last 10 years alone, Massachusetts has added 16.5 million square feet of commercial lab and biopharma manufacturing space. That is more space than any other cluster in the United States has in existence. So we just added in 10 years more space than any other cluster has in its entire inventory. And so the assets around and the resources around supporting the creation of incredible facilities is really unparalleled here. The expertise from finding a building or a site, engineering, design, construction, and ongoing operations is really second to none.
Oh, we've got a question from the audience I want to bring in. What are you seeing in other industries that may be transferable to the life sciences to help make it more sustainable into the future?
Well, it's a good question. There are so many complementary industries to the life sciences, to biopharma in Massachusetts, and when you look economy wide and mass econ, don't focus just on life sciences. We work with every industry, but we see that really complementary industries, everything from clean tech to cyber tech to IT that are also here, also have an incredible presence in Massachusetts, and we see a flow of talent moving among those industries, and we see those industries actually complement each other very well. So this is essentially an innovative economy, an innovation economy in Massachusetts, and the industries work in a very complementary fashion with one another.
Excellent. Kind of tying back into the commentary about the 16 million square feet that have been added, what's your projection for a new lab going beyond that? So for new lab and manufacturing space coming online over the next 1 to 3 years? This is a question coming in from the audience.
So really the development of new space has been unabated, even amidst this pandemic. In fact, in last year, in the midst of the onset of the pandemic and when it really was at its worst phases, we still had in the life sciences and biopharma an incredible amount of activity in terms of companies looking for sites and starting to build sites. And so, we've seen that, and we have a very savvy development community, commercial real estate development community, and they are very tied into the life sciences. They know how to build these facilities, and so we're seeing. Long ago we saw Kendall Square, sort of the epicenter of everything, and amazingly, Cambridge still finds new spaces available for the industry. Just when you think it can't grow anymore in Kendall Square or Cambridge, there's another development opportunity that emerges, and you've seen these incredible MIT buildings, grow like mushrooms, and unbelievable. They just went up during the pandemic, essentially, incredible facilities, and we still see other developers, Alexandria Biomed, still very active, in Somerville with Biomed, Alexandria, always finding additional sites to develop. And we see that in the 128 corridor and then beyond in the 495 corridor and beyond. And so we really see biomanufacturing opportunities going out to the 495 and beyond area where they're still it's still right in the heart of where they can access incredible talent and still be perhaps tethered to a facility in Cambridge or in Boston or the core of the industry, but be an hour drive away or less, which again is difficult to replicate in other clusters where you can have manufacturing and research so closely located. And so you mentioned BMS and its expansion at Devens. Thermo Fisher down in Plainville, Alnylam, and in Norton, Ultragenics and Bedford. So many new Vibologics in Boxborough. So we really see the industry not only growing at its core, but in the 128, 495 belt and beyond.
So we've got another question tied into the around the expansion, the footprint expansion. So the footprint expansion doesn't seem to be sufficiently supported by state investments in public services, particularly transportation. What are your thoughts on that? And that's one of our of our key topics. Yeah.
Well, transportation is one of those good problems to have. I mean, it speaks to the fact that you have a workforce trying to get to work, and you have to accommodate that. But you have a lot of work going on, so you have a lot of you have all this expansion. So, during there are locations in Massachusetts where the transportation system is in great shape, and so and that's what you hear if you're in the Southeast. Central part of the state, Worcester, and the Northeast. If you're traveling, along these different corridors themselves, but it's getting in and out of Boston and Cambridge, which has been an issue. So absolutely, in the post-pandemic period, the role of public transportation is still something we don't know how soon people will be ready to get back using public transportation. It is notable, however, that the T has made investments during the pandemic period, has upgraded different aspects of the system. Logan Airport has made similar investments during the pandemic period. And if you notice during the pandemic as well, last year into this year, because people were traveling at times of the day that they normally wouldn't be because they would have been at work, but now they're working from home. You've seen a lot of construction out there. So the Mass Highway has also been, expediting a lot of projects. And so the transportation issues are real. Advancements have been made and will be made. But I think we'll also see somewhat a change in terms of where the work spaces are. So nothing's going to change dramatically in Kendall Square and Cambridge and Boston. The core of the industry is still going to be the core of the industry, but we are going to see more opportunities in the 128, 495 belt, Worcester and beyond, because transportation works better in these places, literally because of the volume is different. But it's a long-term issue. It's a long-term investment, and the state is making these investments. So improvements are coming or have happened, and we have a national infrastructure initiative that would be also sorely be needed here in Massachusetts as well.
Yeah. So talking about government investment, let's take it a little bit more broadly. So what role does the government play in really fostering the sustainable growth of the life sciences in Massachusetts?
It's a very important role, and that's where, again, state government has for many years been very supportive of the life sciences industry, as noted with the life sciences $1.5 billion life sciences initiative, the establishment of the Life Sciences Center. So these are real investments. When it comes to growing a company in Massachusetts, we use the term Team Massachusetts. And so whether you're working with Mass Econ or the Mass Office of Business Development or the Mass Life Science Center or Mass Development, all of these different players in economic development, when you speak with one of us, you speak with all of us. And because we compare notes, we have regular meetings, we're very transparent among ourselves. We work together on projects. Usually these projects take multiple resources, or expansion projects take multiple resources to really happen. And we all work together. And that's probably an underreported aspect of Massachusetts. We really have a great Massachusetts team focused on economic development opportunities. And so I'd always strongly suggest any company that is interested in growing. We all understand that they need to do due diligence, especially if they have a board of directors. They have to look everywhere when they're considering these facilities. You contact Mass Econ, contact the Life Sciences Center, or the Mass Office of Business Development, what have you, and say, this is what we're interested in doing. And what you will find is an incredible team that'll come together around your project as a partner to really to help you understand what incentives, what resources are available in Massachusetts. And in Massachusetts, the math isn't that hard. And for some of these expansion projects, if you're adding 50 or more employees with an expansion, think $15,000 per job. That's a refundable tax credit that would be available through the Life Sciences Initiative. So you start to add more jobs to that equation, you're getting real investment, and then you bring together the different workforce programs that are out there. There are true incentives. There are very competitive incentives compared with other states and nations, and there, we also talk about cost points in Massachusetts. The price point in Kendall Square and the Seaport is going to be high, and it's comparable, to places, London, San Francisco, New York City, what have you. But then you go 40 minutes, 60 minutes outside of the core, but still very connected to the ecosystem we have, and you're a very different price point in terms of facility that is very competitive with other parts of the nation. So there's a great team here, and I'd certainly encourage those that are considering expansion to contact any member of the Team Massachusetts and really learn about these opportunities.
Great. We got some more questions coming in from the feed, and this one's interesting. So how has the pandemic disrupted economic development initiatives in the life sciences? And has there been any good disruption?
So, I mean, I believe the state responded very strongly to the pandemic. It was hit very early in the pandemic, relative to the rest of the nation, and after the first few weeks, Massachusetts did very well, and we saw Massachusetts state government develop programs specifically to support investments in the production of PPE, for example, and in COVID-related research as well, complementing federal dollars. So, Massachusetts responded very effectively in terms of working with the life science community here, and we see that in how the life science community responded in really incredible ways and heroic ways, not only in the development of vaccines, which can certainly be traced to Massachusetts companies, as we all know, but also in incredible support for bringing resources to the community in general. During the pandemic. So the life sciences industry did very well here as a partner with state government. In terms of actual incentives and the different programming around supporting the growth of the life sciences in Massachusetts, nothing changed during the pandemic. Those programs were as active as ever, and we've seen projects go forward during the pandemic. And really unabated. So all of those investment programs that the state has had that supports the life sciences have been in place and have been active during the pandemic.
Related to that, and maybe this might be our last question. So as we're coming back to the new normal or the next normal or whatever we're calling it these days, how do you think that remote policies and changes in the way we use our lab space and our office space may, impact us longer term? As far as
it's a big discussion in the commercial real estate community, and certainly among companies. What has changed? So here I am in my home office. I'm in the office about 2 days a week now. So I think for many employers, we're starting to see the gradual return to the workplace. As we look down the road, we know that the nature of work has changed, and the way we can complete our work has changed. We know we can do many things remotely, as we're doing this today. So we're not in a hotel conference room or MassBio's wonderful space that they have for conferences. We're at home having this conversation. A lot of this is going to be with us forever, and so in terms of office type positions, that is going to change, and there'll probably be smaller footprints in terms of office space, and we'll probably see office opportunities move to, outside of the core in some cases, and closer to where people live. And so that might have an effect on, transportation issues in a positive fashion. But in terms of lab work, in terms of certainly manufacturing has gone on 24/7 right during the pandemic, essential workers, and that will continue. So things are going to change, and there may be opportunity in that change in terms of helping companies better align to the needs of their workers. Frankly, that's going to be part of the conversation going forward.
Well, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all pans out, and over the next few years, in terms of the opportunity to take advantage of the flexibility and the different ways of working to grow things even further here. But that's all the time we have. We've hit the end of the meeting, so it hits the end of the session. I want to thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts, and thank everyone for tuning in, and encourage you to check out massbio.org and for upcoming events, including the State of Possible Conference, which is next week on May 19th. So thanks everyone, and have a good day. Bye, Pete.
Take care.